All right, everybody, welcome to US Golf TV. I'm Todd Kolb, PGA teaching professional here for US Golf TV and VLS Golf. And hey, Nick and I had a little bit of free time tonight, so we thought we would just spur the moment. We're going to go live and talk about some of the things to hopefully help you play better golf. And specifically tonight, we're talking about 3 keys for really all golfers, but a lot of these kind of are specific to older golfers, okay? And there are a lot of the concepts that we're going to talk about this evening are in the vertical line swing, in the book, The Bad Lie, all those types of things that you've come to know us, before. So we're going to give it here just about 30 seconds. We're going to let a few people start jumping on. We got a bunch of people already who are getting on. And if you got any questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat right now, because we're going to take some time here at the end to go through some of the things that we want to make sure we get answered for you this evening. We're kind of in our new studio. And we got some new technology with a simulator and stuff. And so we thought, hey, let's get together, spur the moment. Let's talk some golf, and let's see if we can get after it a little bit here. So we got some of you I see jumping on already. Hey, if anybody's out there already and you can hear us and the audio is good, since this is kind of our first time doing this, give us a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind. Put it in the chat, little thumbs up telling us, yep, I can hear you guys. You're looking good. And then we're going to dive right into this. Like I said, tonight, we're talking about the 3 kind of swing keys for really all golfers, but specifically a little bit more for older golfers. All right, good. So we got a couple people jumping in there already. Nick, how are we doing over there? Are they giving us? All right, Nick's giving me the thumbs up. You can hear us. You can see what we're doing. So let's dive right into this. All right, PGA teaching professional Todd Kolb, director of instruction here for US Golf TV and VLS Golf. And tonight we're talking about 3 key things that I believe, quite frankly, all golfers should do, but specifically for golfers who are over 40. You know who I'm talking about. Maybe your back's a little sore, or maybe you don't move like you used to move. Maybe you don't have the strength that you used to have, or maybe you got an old football injury in your knee or whatever, but you still love the game, but you don't move like you used to move. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about something to do with the trail leg. We're going to talk about something to do with the hips. And then we're going to wrap up with probably the most important one, which is what happens with the lead arm. All right. And what I found in over 30 years of coaching, that quite frankly, I think the all-time greats do these things. Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Johnny Miller, Sam Snead, even some of the younger golfers, Justin Thomas. When you look at their swings, you're going to see a lot of the 3 things that we're talking about here this evening. So great to see we got a bunch of you jumping on. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us and you can see us, and let's get going right here. All right, so let's talk about number 1. Number 1 is the trail leg. All right, when we look at the trail leg, which is the right leg for a right-handed golfer, the first thing that I'm looking for, and I'm going to give you a little checkpoint for this here in a second, is I want to see the trail leg change flex. All right, so what I mean by that is that when you're looking at the swing right here from this down the line view, when I'm set up right here, guys and gals, all right, in the vertical line swing setup, all right, we have a little bit of knee bend. Let's say that knee bend, for sake of discussion, is 30 degrees. Okay, for some people it's a little more, for some it's a little less. Doesn't matter, you get the point. Let's say that the bend in the knees is roughly 30%. The first thing that I'm looking for when I'm analyzing a golf swing, all right, is that when they get the swing to the top, when their arms get to the top, when the club reaches the top of the backswing, I want to see about 15 degrees of knee bend. Okay, so let me go through that again. We start with 30. That's just an arbitrary number, 30 degrees of bend, right? When we get to the top, we want to see about 15 in the trail, and we want to see a little bit more in the lead. So if you're a numbers person, I'm at 30 and 30, which is 60, right? My math, is that pretty good? That's pretty good math, isn't it? Okay, good. Nick's giving me a thumbs up. Make sure you give us a thumbs up as well, too. All right, so I'm at 30 and 30 is 60. When I get to the top, I want to have about 15 in the trail, 15, and maybe 40 or 45 in the lead. Now, what happens and why is that important? And I'm going to talk about a checkpoint if you're videotaping your own swing that you can look at and see. All right, so let me just go ahead and hit a shot here in our new simulator. I got a 6-iron right here, and I want you to watch the trail leg a little bit. So here we go. I'm set in here. I got 30 degrees of bend on both of them. Okay, pulled that a little bit, but it felt pretty solid. Did you see the change in knee flex a little bit? Hopefully you did. All right, felt a little restricted, but ooh, that has some pretty good popping. I don't know if the simulator's right, Nick. 198, workout program, buddy. All right, so why is it important that we go from 30 to 15? Okay, when that happens, that allows the body to pivot and to move. All right, now, here's one of the things that I hear a lot of people say, well, isn't that a sway, or aren't you swinging up the golf ball? Let's talk about that. The answer to that is no, as long as you keep the weight on the inside of the foot. And that's going to lead into the second thing that we're going to talk about here in a second with the hips, and then we're going to talk about the lead arm to wrap things up here. But when you change that knee flex, okay, it's important that you keep the weight on the inside of the foot. We're not advocating that we change the knee flex and we drift off the golf ball. We're not saying that at all. When we get the weight, we'll talk about this here in a second, but when we get the weight up here at the top, I want that weight to be on the inside of the lead foot. That's not a sway. The shifting of the weight, okay, if anybody out there knows it, put it in the chat. In the setup, what do we like the weight distribution to be in the vertical line swing? If you know that, throw that in the chat. Nick, let me know when somebody gets that one right and who got it right, all right? But when we're in that setup, okay, we want to move the weight from the lead to the trail. The shifting of weight from lead to trail back to lead can help create club head speed. Okay, so we're shifting that weight, but when the trail knee changes knee flex, that actually allows us and makes it easier to keep that weight on the inside of the lead foot. Okay? Is everybody with me so far? Hopefully you are. Give me a little thumbs up. Be sure to tell us where you're from too. One of our favorite things to do is see where everybody's from, logging in. Like I said earlier, you're here with US Golf TV, VLS Golf. Nick and I were just here at the office. We're like, let's just go live. Let's go live. We didn't even plan on it. We just threw some stuff on the whiteboard, and that's what we're doing right here. Anybody get this right? Sid
from Australia was first with 60-40.
Okay, good. Our friends from Australia, you guys are heading into golf season. It's freezing right here right now. But yes, we want the 60-40. We want 60% on the lead, 40% on the trail. We cover all this in our book, The Bad Lie. You can find that on Amazon if you're interested in that. Now, what is the checkpoint? And we'll talk about the second key component here in a second. What is the checkpoint that you can use at home to make sure you're doing this correctly, right? So we started with the 30 and the 30, and at the top we wanted to have 15. We released a little bit, have 15, and on the lead we add a little bit more. So here's the checkpoint. When you get, and if you don't believe me, don't leave this channel right now, but when we're done, go look at Jack Nicklaus, Johnny Miller, Tom Watson, Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, and look at the lower body, and here's what you'll see. When they get their arms to the top, you're going to see some daylight in between their knees. This is one of the checkpoints that I always look for when I'm analyzing a golf swing. When the arms are at the top of the backswing, is there gappage? Is there a little bit of daylight in between the knees right there? All right, everybody with me? Hopefully you are. Give me a little thumbs up if we're making sense. All right, number two is the hips. You've got to turn your hips. Okay, you've got to turn your hips. You cannot restrict your hip movement. Okay, I don't believe that's the case, especially for my older, experienced golfers. You know who you are out there. You've got to turn the hips, because when you turn the hips, that allows you to turn the shoulders. If I restrict my hip turn, if I don't turn my hips at all right, that's going to really limit the range of motion in my shoulders. Now, some of you are more flexible than others. Some of you can keep your hips not moving or not rotating, and you can turn your shoulders pretty good. All right, some of you, you're not going to be able to hardly move them at all, right? But when my hips turn, that allows me to turn my shoulders. We're going to talk about, if you slice the golf ball, pay attention, because we're going to talk about one of the reasons you might be slicing it, okay, has to do with your hip turn, but also how you can, get the club in a better spot, all right? So if I turn my hips, then I can turn my shoulders. And that allows me to make a bigger and fuller shoulder turn. So the second thing that I'm looking for is some hip turn. All right, now why is that important? And how does it tie into slicing? Okay, now I'm going to do this one from down the line. I'm going to exaggerate this. All right, I'm going to exaggerate this. But if I really restrict my hip turn and I keep my trail knee bent, all right, for me as just an average 55-year-old guy who likes golf, okay, this is about all the farther I can, this is about it for me. Okay, and I'm starting to feel that already. But if I release okay, and I turn my hips, I can make a full backswing. Now, here's what I want you to look for, okay? Watch the club. Watch the club head and watch where it gets to in my backswing. So this is the restricted. Okay, that's about it. Here's the releasing. Okay, notice where the club gets. Number one is the swing is longer, right? But also it gets up and it gets more round. It gets more round. And if you're tending to slice the golf ball, it could be because your swing is really short and it's out here in front, and then the only way to get back to the golf ball is to cut across it. But if you have a nice full turn, the hips turn, the shoulders turn, that allows you to get what we call some depth behind us in the golf swing. Let's look at it from the face on. Here's the restricted. Restrict my knee, restrict my hip. Okay, that's about it. But if I release and I turn my hips, boom. Which golf ball is going longer, do you think, huh? This one or this one? Which one is less strenuous on your body? This one or this one? I mean, the answer is obvious, right? So number two is we got to turn the hips a little bit. Now, how might you feel that, and how does that tie into where the weight is on the foot? Because I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Here's a simple drill. Now, tonight I've got the mic box in my trail pocket, my right pocket, back pocket. A lot of golfers out there will have a phone, right? Oh, well, everybody's got a phone these days, especially the young people. All right, but you got a phone, you might have it in your back pocket. So here's what I'll tell students. I'll say, all right, Billy, you got your phone in your back pocket, right? Now, what I want you to do, Billy, is I want that phone to go backwards. I want that phone to go kind of backwards. And if the phone goes backwards, that means I turn my hips. It means I have turned my hips, excuse me. I've turned my hips. But also when I do that, watch real closely here, when that phone goes backwards, that allows my weight to stay on the inside of the foot. If the phone goes away from the target, if the phone goes this way, that's a drift. That's a sway. This, the phone going backwards, is not a sway. That's a turn. All right, so let's recap what we've learned so far here. And I'm going to hit a golf shot, and then we're going to talk about the third part of it. And hopefully you've got some questions. Be throwing those questions in there. Nick's going to write some of those down. He's going to help us. We're going to answer some of your questions here. And also, all the things we talk about are available at vlscoaching.com. If you go to vlscoaching.com, we've got both of our books, our full swing book, our short game book, coaching programs, you name it, it's all right there. So here's what we've learned so far tonight. All right. I got to do these three things if I want to make good golf swings in our opinion. All right. Number one is I got to change the knee flex. I've got to let my right knee release, which allows me to turn my hips. When I turn my hips, I want that phone, I want that mic box to go backwards. Let me go ahead and hit a shot right here. So I'm set in there. I got the 60-40, right? My friends from Australia, you remember that? I got 60 here. I got 40 here. I'm going to shift. I'm going to release, and I'm going to turn. So shift, release, turn. Here we go. Okay, not bad. Got a little bit of the poles going tonight. All right, you got the idea. All right, number three, let's talk about the third thing that we're looking for. One of the cornerstones of the vertical line swing is the direction of the lead arm. The direction of the lead arm. So in my lead arm, I'm going to give you a drill for this here in a second, then we're going to answer your questions, all right? The lead arm can go a lot of different directions. Okay, it can go up, it can go around, it can kind of go somewhere in between, but this lead arm has got a lot of different directions that it can go. All right, now what I like to see, and I think is the best, and this is what I think you'll see in the all-time greats who played great golf, for decades, is you'll see the lead arm works more back and it works up. Okay, so let me show you. And I'll give you a checkpoint. If you like to videotape your own swing, here's something that you can look for. So when you take it back, I like the lead arm to go back, and I like the lead arm to go up. So at the top of the backswing, I want to see that lead arm just a little bit above the shoulders. Okay, I don't want to see it below the shoulders here. I want to see it slightly above the shoulders. Okay, now let's look at that from face on, and we'll talk about why this is important, especially for my older, experienced golfers. All right, if the lead arm goes low and around, Look at the club there. Look at the height of the club. And you can see where it's at relative to the logos on the back wall. Okay. Pretty full turn here. I've released the trail leg. I've turned the hips. Okay, I've got a pretty full turn, but look at where the club head is at on the wall versus here. Which one is higher? Obviously the second one, right? That's higher up. Now, here's one thing we know. That when the club gets back and it gets a little higher, it's got more time to accelerate and create club head speed. If it's low, doesn't mean you can't hit good golf shots. Right? There's some great golfers who have a kind of a flat swing. We're not saying flat is bad. I'm not saying that. Nothing wrong with swinging the club flat. Some great golfers have been pretty flat. But in general, a flatter backswing requires more body rotation, generally speaking. Okay? When the club is a little bit higher, all right, that allows you to create more club head speed. And if you look at most of your people who are long drive people, not all of them, but most of them, their lead arm is pretty high and the club head is pretty high up there. All right, so let's recap those three things. I'm going to give you a checkpoint for the arms, and we're going to get into a couple questions. Be firing your questions in there. If you've just got here, hey, welcome to US Golf TV. Welcome to VLS Golf. We went live tonight, spur of the moment. Spur of the moment. We're talking about three things tonight that I believe that golfers should do, especially older, experienced golfers. All right, number one, we got to let that trail leg release. When the trail leg releases, that allows you to do number two, which is turn the hips, which allows you to get some length to your backswing, get some depth, so you can hit hopefully a nice high draw. And number three is we got to get that lead arm going back and up. And if we do those three things, we're off and rolling. Now, let's tie all this together. Let's tie all this together. So here's what you can do. This is a simple drill. What you can do is take your regular setup. I'll demonstrate it this way. And then we'll go ahead and hit a shot here in a second. So regular setup. And then what I'm going to do is maintain my posture. But I'm just going to go ahead and lift my arms up to about button height. And then I'm just going to turn and take it to the top. So let me do it again. Regular setup, maintain posture, lift, turn, and through. Now, you can do that actually with hitting golf shots. So let me go ahead and get set up here. Here we go. It takes a little bit of practice, getting used to it. You don't have to hit them far. When you're doing drills, remember, you don't have to hit them far. So here we go. Regular setup, maintain posture. That's the key. Lift my hands to about button height. Boom, turn, and through. Okay, now when you do that, that'll naturally help get your hands and your arms a little bit higher. So that's the third thing, and that's kind of how we tie it all together. All right, hey, let's get into some questions. If you're just getting here, tell us where you're from. Put that in the chat if you wouldn't mind. We love hearing, Nick, where we got people coming from? We got them kind of coming from all over here?
Well, we got one in South Dakota. We got Elkins Lake. We got obviously Australia.
Australia, South Dakota.
St. Mary's, Georgia.
Georgia, all right, yeah, yeah.
Phoenix.
Phoenix, oh, we like Phoenix. Phoenix is a good spot to be. All right, I like that. All right, hey, let's get into some questions. If you're just getting here, welcome, US Golf TV, VLS Golf. We went live tonight, spur of the moment. We just covered three things that we believe all golfers should do, but especially our experienced golfers should do. All right, we talked about turning the hips. We talked about change of knee flex, lead arm high, all things that we covered in our book, The Bad Lie. You can find that on Amazon if you're interested. But let's get into some questions, Nick. Give me a couple.
Yeah, so this first one comes from David. He says, how do you stop hitting at the ball when you are senior?
Okay, really good question. Thank you for that, David. Hey, David, tell us where you're from in the chat right there, if you wouldn't mind. Great question there. How do we stop hitting at the golf ball? Great question. All right. The golf swing in general, I think it's like a dance. We talk about this a lot in our chipping, but a good golfer, they're like in a dance with the golf club, right? Okay. You're leading, if you're leading, right? The male typically will lead in a dance, okay, in the dance floor, but you're not dominating. You're not forcing. You're not throwing. You're leading the direction. You're leading kind of the movement. And that's what we want to do. We want to be leading the movement with our dance partner, which is the golf club. So the question becomes, okay, how do I do that? Well, the first drill that I would do, this is one of our golden ones. We call it our right-left drill. We use this for all kinds of different things. Look something like this, and I'll tell you why it works. Take your regular setup. You're going to swing the club to the, this is for a right-handed golfer. Obviously, if you're lefty, you'll just reverse the phrase. But it's right, meaning the club and my arms and my weight are on my right foot. Left, club, arms, weight, left foot. Right, left, right, left, right, left. So we do a 3-setter. The key is that the club is in continuous motion, and then we hit a shot. So it looks something like this from beginning to end, and then I'll tell you why it works. Okay, here we go. Right, left, right, left, right, left. All right, now I got the feel. I'm going to go ahead and step up. Right, left. Now, that was the best shot I hit tonight. By far the most solid, probably going to go the longest. Now, why does that work? Okay, and why is that going to help my friend there? Because when the club is in continuous motion, all right, the body and the club are going to naturally want to work together. Okay, because they're moving together, they're dancing together. That's the way that I would tackle that one right there. All right, hey, Nick, let's get into another question here. If you're just getting here, hey, welcome. Tell us where you're from. Throw that in the chat. Throw a couple questions in there. We've got some time. We're here to help you play better golf, answer anything that you could do. I'm Todd Kolb, PGA instructor for over 30 years. We love golf. We love helping all golfers, but especially our older, experienced golfers out there. Nick, what else we got?
Yeah, so David did respond. He's from Parksburg, Pennsylvania.
All right, Pennsylvania. All right.
Yeah, so Damien, looks like he said he's in Sydney, Australia as well.
Okay, one of our Australian friends. All right, fantastic. What do we got? How can we help him?
So he says, do you feel your arms in the transition, or do you let them drop as you move?
Oh, man, this is a great question. Thank you for this. We've been talking about this in our coaching program with Brett. Okay, Brett's in our coaching program. This is something he's worked a lot on, and he's made some tremendous progress. Nick can throw that in the chat. If you want to be part of our coaching program where you have your swing and analyze stuff like that, Nick can put that in the chat for you. But Brett and I talked about this. So it's really more of a feel. Now, the arms should the arms drop? 100% they should drop. Okay, generally speaking. Now, here's the thing to remember. You know, there have been some great golfers, okay, who from the top, their arms actually work just a little bit out and on top. I mean, Hale Irwin, you know, some guys who've kind of hit like a little bit of a pole cut. So what we don't want is we don't want exaggerated movements. When you're at the top, you don't want your arms going way out. And you certainly don't want them going way underneath either, okay? All right, so there's a fine line there. Now, I believe that the arms should just be relaxed and that they should kind of react to the movement in an ideal situation. Okay, so what I will tell golfers is I want them to focus on their body and let their arms kind of relax. They should be aware of them, but they should be relatively relaxed. Okay, so let me just show you a little drill that you can do to kind of get that feel. So this one is a little tougher, okay? You can hit golf balls like this, but I wouldn't recommend hitting a lot of them, but it looks something like this. So you take your regular setup, you just make a backswing, you swing it through, and then you bring it back here. See that? We call it kind of the rewind or the reset drill. So it's boom. See that? So you don't do it fast because I don't want you to hurt yourself, but it's just boom. Let me go ahead and hit a shot like that. So you take your regular setup, back. Now notice I didn't really move my body at all there. I just assumed that. Now why? Because when you do that, you're going to feel your arms kind of relax. And they're going to naturally kind of fall to the inside. You're kind of here and it's just kind of going to fall to the inside. So back to your original question. Yes, do the arms drop? For most golfers, they do drop a little bit, but it should be a byproduct of rotating. The key is to try to keep them relaxed and just kind of let it happen versus forcing it. So let's get a couple more questions here, Nick. What else we got for people who might want to, how do we help them play better golf?
Yeah, so John from Mississippi asks, any advice for slice? Okay,
so let's talk a little bit about the slice. Who asked this, John?
John. Yeah.
All right, thank you, John. John, where's John from?
Mississippi.
Okay, John, I think you're from Mississippi. If not, put that in the chat. All right, great question. John wants to, what about a slice? How do I fix my slice? All right, Now, we cover all this, obviously, in a lot of our stuff. We had one of our very first things that we came out with was called Tour Draw. Back when I was probably thinner and Nick had more hair and we were better looking guys. Back in the day, right? Back in the day. But one of our first products that we came out with was called Tour Draw. Because as a coach, you know, that's probably the most common thing we see is slicing. So let me tell you 3 things that you can do. 3 things in your setup that can help you turn your slice into a draw. All right, here we go. Now it's going to be a little counter, might be a little, I don't say controversial, but it's going to be different than you normally hear. Number 1, take your stance, your feet, your hips, and your shoulders, and have them be slightly closed. Let me say that again. Your feet, your hips, and your shoulders should be slightly closed. Okay? In order to hit a draw, we have to be swinging the club slightly from the inside. Now, technically, we have to have the club be swinging in to out in a square club face. That's a little bit more deep than we want to get tonight. Okay, we have an actual product on our website called The Science of the Slice. You can go to that. But anyhow, you could check that out if you really are a science person, you want to dive into it. But for our purposes tonight, number 1 is have your feet, hips, and shoulders be slightly closed. Now, we're not talking crazy. We're talking, you know, right side of the green. If the pin's in the center of the green, maybe the right edge of the green. Number 1. Number 2, make sure your club face stays square to the target. Let me say that again. Make sure your club face stays square to the target. So when I'm done with those 2 things, my feet, my hips, and my shoulders are slightly closed, but my club face is square to the target. Okay, what you're doing there is you're building in a formula to help you swing the club from the inside with the square club face. Number 3, especially with the irons, is move the ball slightly back in the stance. When you move the ball slightly back in the stance, it makes it easier to hit down on the golf ball. All right, now what I want you to understand is that all things being equal, when you hit down on the ball, it makes it easier to draw the golf ball. So let's recap those 3 things. These are 3 things you can do that have nothing to do with your golf swing, but can help you turn your slice into a draw. Number 1, slightly closed stance. Number 2, square club face. Number 3, ball slightly back. Let me see if I can do that for you. So here we go. I'm going to aim my club face at my target. I'm going to slightly close my stance. I'm going to move the ball back a little bit in my stance. Let me go ahead and make a swing. Oh, I hope you got that one, Nick. Tour draw, my friend. That was it right there. Nice draw. Oh, hey, let's go. We got a few more minutes here. We're going to get into 1 or 2 more questions. If you're just logging in, welcome. You're here at US Golf TV and also VLS Golf. We're going live tonight, spur of the moment. We covered 3 things that I believe all good golfers should do, especially our older, experienced golfers. We talked a little bit about trail leg release. We talked about hip turn. We talked about lead arm, getting it up a little bit higher, and now we're just answering some questions. So if you just got here, tell us where you're from. Throw a question in the chat right there, and we're going to get after it. All right, Nick, give me another one. What else we got?
Yeah, Bob from New Hampshire. My question is, all my woods, I hit stingers. I can't get any air.
Okay, all right, Bob. All right, Bob from New Hampshire, my friend. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab something here, my friend. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I got a 3 wood here. And I'm not going to get too deep here on this, but I can tell you this. Getting woods in there, use the word stinger. All right, Bob it was?
Bob, yeah.
Okay, Bob. All right, now when you say the word stinger, put it in the chat. I'm assuming you're talking just kind of like a low shot. You're like it's low, it's just not getting up in the air. If I'm on the right track, give me a thumbs up in the chat or let me know, because I want to make sure I answer your question correctly. But here's a couple things I want to talk about as we wait to hear back from Bob. There's 2 things that help the golf ball. There's a lot of things that help the golf ball get up in the air. But the biggest factors are, number 1, the loft on the club. And number 2 is the speed at which you swing the club. Let me say that again. It's the loft on the club and the speed at which you swing it. If you've ever played with somebody who hits the golf ball a long ways, I'm talking 275, 295, 310 off the tee plus, they hit the ball high. You don't see guys who hit the ball 330 off the tee who hit like super low, because they have a lot of speed. And with speed comes height, All right. And then the second one, of course, is the loft. So like on a 3-wood typical loft, you might only have, 12, 13 degrees of loft. So it's not a lot of loft. And if you don't have a lot of swing speed, you're not going to be able to get the golf ball very high in the air. So what are some things that you could do? Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit our new fairway wood here that we haven't even released yet. We're just getting ready to release this thing. Nick's giving me kind of the like, hey, be careful over there. All right. But we're releasing this specifically for this question. But here's some things you can do in the meantime. Number one is you could just take the club face and slightly open it up. Just getting a little bit more loft on it is going to help you get the golf ball in the air. Now, when you do that, you're going to probably have to play for just a little bit of a baby fade. Okay. The other thing that you can do is just move the ball maybe back in the stance just a little bit. Okay. That might help you get the golf ball in the air. But the biggest thing that you're fighting, all right, is the design of the golf clubs. Like a 3-wood, a 5-wood, a 7-wood, they just don't have a lot of built-in loft in them, and so they're very hard to get in the air. And that's one of the reasons we just designed our own golf clubs. So I don't know if I didn't want that to be a promotional pitch for a golf club, but in essence, if you're hitting a traditional 3-wood and you don't have a lot of swing speed, I hate to break it to you guys and gals, but you're just not going to hit them very high, because the physics behind it just aren't going to allow us to do that. So anyhow, all right, Nick, what else we got? Let's get into a couple more questions before we wrap her up here. What a great group we got coming in here this evening.
Bob did want to clarify, yes, low smoker.
I like this guy, Bob. Thank you. The low smokers. Hey, I like this. This is good. All right, what else we got, Nick? We're going to use that one.
Yeah, so Sid from Australia also, he said he fears the high pitch. That's a shot he doesn't have. Chipping's good, but when it comes to high pitch, he freezes.
Okay, the high pitch shot. All right, let's talk a little bit about that. All right, let's go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the high pitch shot. This is a good question. Man, we like our group from Australia. These guys are some really good people out there. Love golf. All right, so pitching. Talk a little bit about ball position, a little bit about weight distribution, and one little thought on the swing itself. All right, and so number one is that if you want to hit a pitch, so when we say pitch shot, guys and gals, to me, you can define it differently, and the other instructors might, but I think of a pitch shot as anytime my hands get above my waist, above waist high in the backswing, but I'm not making a full out swing. I'm not swinging like full speed, all out, all length. A chip shot is anytime my hands stay below my waist. So if my hands stay below my waist, no matter how far the ball is going to go, I describe that as a chip shot. Pitch is waist above. So that's, first of all, that's how we define it. So how do I hit a nice little high pitch shot? Well, number one is you got to get a club with some loft on it. Okay? Typically your most lofted club. Now I just went ahead and just grabbed my 54. But if you got a 58, something like that, that would be good. Number two is I would open the face a little bit. Okay, when it comes to pitching and especially chipping, I'm a big advocate of slightly rotating the face open. Not crazy, but a little bit. Because when you rotate the face just a little bit open, of course you get a little bit more loft, which helps you get the golf ball in the air. Much like our conversation we were talking about in reverse with Bob, who hits those low bullets, low smokers, right? A little bit of loft is going to help you get the golf ball in there. Number two is when you open the face a little bit, it also adds a little bit of bounce, okay? And bounce allows the club to kind of bounce through the turf a little bit and can definitely make pitching a little bit easier. So number one, get a club with a lot of loft on it. Number two, slightly rotate the face a little bit. Now, here's the key. Get the ball in the center of the stance. Think of the bottom of your swing being equal to where the buttons are at on your shirt. Okay, so like I got my zipper on it, right? I got my zipper right here, all right, from the Masters, my shirt right here. Okay, that's where you want the ball to be, all right, when you're hitting a pitch shot. Now, here's the key. Make sure you've got about 60 to 65% of the weight on your lead foot. So here we go. I got the ball on the buttons on my shirt. I got the face just a little bit open, okay, and I've got pretty good weight on my lead foot, about 60, 65%. Now, in the motion, I want you to keep most of that weight on the lead foot through the motion. Okay, driver, I was hitting 6 irons. We're going to shift the weight, all right? But on a pitch shot, it's forward, and it's pretty much staying forward. Now, what that allows you to do is when the weight stays forward, it allows you to hit a little bit down on the ball, improves contact, and it's going to help you put a little bit more spin on it and get that height. So let's go ahead and tie this together. Here we go. I got my 54. I've got the face a little bit open. I'm going to have the ball right here, right off the buttons of my shirt. I'm going to get a little bit forward. I'm going to kind of keep it there. Okay. Landed that about 60 yards, maybe a little long for a pitch shot, but it got up in the air and had some little bit of height to it. So I hope that answers your question right there. Hey, Nick, let's do one more. Let's do one more. Now, for those of you who are just getting here, welcome. You're with US Golf TV, VLS Golf. Appreciate you jumping on right here. We decided to go live, spur of the moment tonight. We talked about 3 things that we believe all golfers should do. Okay, we talked about that. If you just got here, you'll have to watch that earlier. Tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're from. We love hearing where you're from. And Nick's throwing in some stuff in the chat there. Nick, make sure you give these guys and gals something like, give them a deal tonight. Don't be a tightwad over there. Give them a deal. I don't know, what do you got cooking tonight? You got something to give them tonight? Okay, all right. Okay, geez Louise, this guy's tough. All right, he's going to give you a nice discount for our new driver, the MaxVert 2. It's been awesome. It launches high. It's got a little bit of a draw bias, so you can hit the nice little baby draw. Anyhow, Nick will throw that in there, give him a little bit of discount. What is that discount worth? Anyhow, $30 off. All right, $30. All right, not bad. That's good. We'll take it. So he'll put that up in the chat. And if you're interested in getting a new driver for yourself for Christmas, or you got a golfer on your Christmas list who's I'd say over 40 years old, slower swing speeds, might help them out. All right, Nick, let's get a question in here, and then we're going to wrap it on up.
Well, we talked about slice, so how about I struggle with a low hook?
Oh, I love this. All right, here we go. This is the beauty of hitting shots in the simmer. All right, so we talked a lot about slicing. What about the low hook? All right, we get some golfers like, man, Todd, I really struggle with a low hook. All right, now, if it's a low hook is different than a high hook. Let me say that again, because this is important. If you look at your ball flight and it's truly a low hook, all right, who asked that question? You recall, Nick? Nick will look it up a little bit. Okay, if it's a low hook, that's different than a high hook. Okay, now because the question I would ask is, do you take much for divots? Because typically people who hit a low hook take a lot of divot with their irons. Okay, all right, so here's what you're looking for. Here's what we're looking for. The low hook, 95% of the time, is caused by the club face being closed at impact. Definitely closed at impact. And lots of times it happens in one of 2 areas. At address, okay, at address, like basically like, if I'm looking at the camera right here, if this is square to the camera, right, they've got the club face closed inadvertently at address. So that's number 1. If I've got a student who's struggling with the low hook, I'd be like, first place I'm going to look, is their club face closed at address? Could be. Might be their simple fix might be like, hey, Jim, your face is closed. Just get her squared up. Oh, okay. Boom. They're off and running, right? That'd be number 1. The second place, and it's probably the more common, I'm going to give you a tip for it so you don't do it anymore, is in the takeaway. When you move the club away, lots of golfers who hook it, hit a low hook especially, the face is shut. This would be shut, okay? And when the club face gets shut, you hit the low hook. Now, how do you fix that? Pretty simple. And this, quite frankly, for my friends out there, all my golfers out there, I would do this no matter if you hook it or not. Here's the key. In your takeaway, make sure the butt end of the club, right here, the butt end of the club moves away from the target when you start to swing. Let me say that again. If you take away one thing from tonight, this would be the thing. Write this one down with a pencil or pen. When you start your swing, make sure the butt end of the club moves away from the target. Let me show you the differences. The old, which could cause the hook or other problems, is this. I'm going to choke down so you can see it. See the butt end of the club? The old would be this. See that? When you do this, where does the butt end of the club go? Towards the target. This is a bad situation in my experience in coaching golf. Okay, what I want you to feel is the butt end of the club moves away from the target. See that? Moves away. Now, how can you practice that, or how can you build that in your swing? Make it part of your pre-shot routine. That's what I do. Works pretty well for me most of the time. Not all the time. Nick's looking at me like, nah, that doesn't work all the time. I've played golf with you. It doesn't work all the time. Most of the time it does. All right, so when you're set in there, okay, your waggle should be this. See that? This is your waggle. Boom. I'm moving the butt end of the club away from the target. Your waggle should not be like this. It should be like this. Let's go ahead. Here we go. Let's tie one in together. Let's go ahead and hit it. So here we go. Little waggle, boom. Little that way like that. Now you've got the feel. Oh, that was my best one of the day. And plus the straightest shot of the night. All right, now, hey, thanks for jumping in. US Golf TV, VLS Golf. We're here to help you play better golf. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to the channel, vlscoaching.com. That's where we got our short game book. We've got our full swing book. We got our coaching program, all of our stuff there. We're just here to help you play better golf. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. We're going to be doing more of those. And at the end of the day, we're here to just help you play better golf. All right, my friends, until next time.